a difference in cosmopolitanism as well as multiculturalism. Cosmopolitanism is as well as indicates a diverse cultural influence, but cosmopolitanism is rather under the umbrella of one leading culture. Cosmopolitanism was rather dominant in the West. It was rather in those big cities, which were some sort of melting pot of many cultures from around the world. It was cosmopolitanism. You could rather say is in a way was a one-way road of one culture who are of one, I would not say culture, but of one economic class. This was rather the middle class who could then partake in the advantages of other cultures. You could say some sort of food or clothes or whatsoever. It was rather this new middle class which then grew after the war. This was among the baby boomers, and this would rather less lay focus on the cultures and traditions of those other cultures they took over from. I mean, you already heard it, and we talked about it. This approach some sort of fell in disgrace because of cultural appropriation. So it was indeed an existence. However, and their opposite, you could say, or not opposite, but an extension is multiculturalism. Multiculturalism, some sort of advocates for equality of cultures, and that the society itself should be created with multiculturally. But very important is that there is not one leading culture. Again, this is some sort of a problematic which we will talk about it. This is that these cultures rather live some sort of next to each other, and this is very important that this is not one rule of law, but that there are many rule of laws, whereas in multicultural or in cosmopolitanism, this was really one rule of law, one dominant society who then some sort of encompasses many different cultures, especially in the cities. And you could say cosmopolitanism was rather some sort of propagated from hipsters, and it had rather a lot of connotation to traveling, because in the baby boomer age, those traveling became some sort of the new way to see the world. Traveling became affordable, especially in the West, and the West would then travel in all those destinations. It was not happening other way around. So if you were in the Soviet Union, it was actually very difficult to get out, and the state would do everything to prevent people from getting out. However, so it was a one-way road. So this the West, they had the material means and the freedom to travel around the world, see other cultures, and this was the cosmopolitanism of the baby boomers. And then now in the millennials we have the multiculturalism, which for example criticizes cultural appropriation as well as whitewashing. I mean, despite the fact that I gave a brief introduction into the separation of cosmopolitanism as well as multiculturalism, indeed, one has to talk about it in more detail. Nevertheless, there is enough literature. I mean, I mentioned Charles Taylor. There are, of as well as Edward Said. But however, I want to talk about the problems of multiculturalism. This some sort of comes with cultural appropriation. I mean, one leading advocate of multiculturalism is indeed Charles Taylor, who wrote about Canada, about French Canadians and their striving for independence, and he some sort of wrote about how one could some sort of maintain unity society without breaking up. But nevertheless, multiculturalism was rather adopted by religious groups. This is indeed something one should put a focus on, because of the simple reason that there is no real separation between culture and religion. You don't know what is culture, you don't know what is religion. Everyone talks about a Christian as well as Islamic society, Islamic and or Christian tradition, and this led to the fact that more this discussion about multiculturalism is dominated by religious groups and by a religious approach. And another critique point of course is that multiculturalism disregards the growing religious intolerance, which indeed did not start with 9/11. Nevertheless, we have more and more rising religious identity. This has become very apparent. One says it is because of the fall of the Iran Shah in 1979, or the Shah of Persia in 1979, so that Iran may have contributed their fair share to this polarization of cultures and religions. I mean, we don't know. We have to, I would say, partially. However, but multiculturalism, some sort of disregards this development. However, this is not only within the Islam, but as well as with Christianity. I will talk about this later. This has partially to do with this technological development. This is another answer for this over sexualization. It is another answer to this shallowness of this society, of this social media. We talked about the feminist response of over sexualization, and religion is another response to this ego fetish, to the reduction of humans to bare means, and as well as of technological development. This is not new. I mean, every development or every fast growing development makes people scary, and now we have the pandemic. No one knows where we will be in a couple of years. So and before the pandemic, of course, this was the financial crisis in 2008, which again had another impact on people's behavior, and so religion in general. This has nothing to do with Islam. You can see, as well as in America, as well as in Europe, the rise of Christian communities. So Christian identity has become very important, self-understanding, and this has to do partially with male culturalism. This is what I will talk about in the next episode. I mean, another critique is on multiculturalism is that it has some sort of a disregard for secularism, because we live indeed in an age where people identify either with no real culture or with rather with moral principles that's beyond within the there is of a culture, and some multiculturalism, some sort of wants to, this is indeed nothing you want to see as negative, wants to indeed support the cultural heritage of ethnic groups and individuals. This is indeed honorable, but it has disregard of of globalized cultural influences. So it is, to this very day, it's not clear anymore which culture has influenced this. So the other culture, you cannot some sort of purely separate one culture from another, and that multiculturalism is some sort of against this global identity, a global citizenship. Of course, now one would answer to that, yeah, this global identity, this global self-understanding was only from a one point of view, from a European point of view, from a Eurocentric point of view. Agreed, but nevertheless, it has some sort of, you have to be part of a culture, you have to be part of a group whatsoever, or you fall out of this social net. And the same is with multi-ethnicism. So if you're not only a mixed race child, but as well as a mixed race, mixed culture, or if your parents belong to different cultures, then it is very difficult to maintain boundaries to both cultures. I mean, you can see this in the present with some politicians who actually struggle to maintain both cultures. And in multiculturalism, this really does not have a place. You have to be one culture, or has to be part of one group, and this is, I would say, indeed diametrical to the development of the millennial age, especially after the postmodern society. You are not only a member of one group, but of many. So, and multiculturalism tries to bring this actually back there, so that you are only a member of one group. And of course, multiculturalism, especially in combination with communitaristic worldviews, supports religious conservatism. So because there is no clear separation what is culture and what is religion. And of course, you have to ask yourself, can one separate between them two? Can you separate between culture and religion, or are they inseparable? However, with the rise of religion identity, this more and more religious leaders or religious views gain space. So this then leads that the multiculturalism some sort of does away with the separation of state and religion, with the separation of politics and religion, if you want. So because those cultures within a broader society then are organized through religion, through religious leaders, and some sort of the preservation of religion and religion rites and habits becomes more important than individual freedom. So this is again some sort of an attempt to submerge the individual in the group, and so make it disappear. And because of more and more emphasis on religious conservatism, as well as on tradition, it is rather, or you could say that multiculturalism